Hello, so creative, it's Faustina here. Let's draft out the beautiful gown that you are seeing on the thumbnail. So this is the material we are working with, 4 yards of flowering material, our drafting patterns and everything. So let's dive into our drafting table. I've gone ahead to lay my pattern very flat on the table, and we are going to start off by marking out our starting line. So from the upper part of the drafting paper, I'm coming down by half inch on several places in order to get a straight line. After getting the straight line will serve as our starting line. From that starting line, we will now start marking out all our vertical lines, which is from our shoulder to our chest line, our bust point, our under bust and the rest of them. Firstly, I'm going to mark out my shoulder to my chest line. How do you get your shoulder to your chest line? Your bust divide by 6 plus 1.5 inch allowance and plus your sloping allowance. So if you are sloping by 1 inch, you are going to add extra 1 inch, and if you are sloping by 1.5, you are going to add extra 1.5 to the 1.5 standard measurement that you have added already. That is, you are going to add 3 inches in total. So after getting your chest line, I'm going to label it, and we are going to, from our chest line or from your shoulder line, mark out your bust point. If you have your client shoulder to bust point, you can go ahead and repeat it, but if you don't have, you can come down from the chest line, come down by 1.5 inch. It will also serve as your bust point. After getting your bust point, I'm going to impute my shoulder to my front waistline. Remember, your front waistline and your back waistline is not always the same. You are going to mark out your front waistline, after which you are also going to mark out your under bust measurement from your shoulder to your under bust. So I've gone ahead to mark out my under bust measurement, and I've ruled it out, and I went ahead to label it as well. And I'm going to impute my front waist measurement. Now from my starting line, I came down by my front waist length, and I'm going to mark it out and also label it. After getting our waistline, we are going to, from our waistline, come down by our hip line. Mine is 9 inches. I'm going to mark it into several places, and I'm also going to rule it out. After which, we are going to, from the starting line, mark out the length of the gown that we are working with. After marking it, I'm going to go ahead and rule it out like so. So this is our hip line. After which, we are going to, from our starting line, come down by the length of our gown and also mark it into several places in order to get a very straight line. I also went ahead to rule it out like so. Our vertical lines are all ready. We will now proceed the working on the shoulder part. On that starting line will serve as our shoulder. I'm going to go ahead and divide our shoulder into 2, and I impute the value from the center front of our pattern paper. I also did the same on the chest line, and I went ahead to rule it out to get our armhole line, and I went ahead to impute our neck width, and I slope the shoulder by 1 inch like so. For the neck depth, I came down by 3 inches, which is the basic neck depth of 3 by 3, the width 3, the depth 3, which I can also go ahead to alter to my desired neck design when drafting, after drafting my basic pattern. So on the chest line, I came up by 3 inches, and I came out by half an inch, and I taper it to my shoulder slope. And on that chest line, I went ahead to impute my bust divide by 4 value in order to complete my armhole like so. After getting my armhole, on my waistline, I'm going to start imputing my nipple to nipple measurement on my waistline, on my under bust, and on my bust point. I'm going to stop at my bust point, and I'm also going to extend the line all the way to my hip line. This will serve as our dart leg. We are going to go ahead and use princess dart on this particular pattern to get that busty effect. I went ahead to extend the line to my hip line, and on that waistline I'm going to open up my dart leg by half inch on both sides. I'm going to taper it all the way to my bust point. You can see how I'm placing my ruler. You can also do the same thing. On that underbust, I'm going to go ahead and do our underbust tightening by half inch on both sides as well, in order to get that busty effect. I see I'm placing my pattern curve to give it a curve, a slight curve on that bust point part. So our busty princess dart has been formed. So on that hip line I came up by 3 inches and I tapered our dart leg all the way to that 3 inches that I came off from, and our waist dart and busty dart has been formed. We will now proceed in marking out our princess dart leg. So I came down by 4 inches from my shoulder slope and I placed my pattern curve like so, in order to mark out our princess dart leg. After getting the princess dart, I'm going to go ahead from the shoulder and form our off shoulder gown. Remember that the gown we are trying to replicate is an off shoulder gown. From the shoulder I'm going to come down by 5 inches into several places. The off shoulder effect is as preferred. You can go ahead and come down by 6 or 7 depending on how deep you want your off shoulder to be. For mine, I came down by 5 inches and I mark it out like so. So for the gown have a little bit of V at the center front. So from that 5 inches I came down by 3 inches and I went in by half inch. Remember that what we are drafting is half of this basic gown. So when I transfer it to fabric, I'm going to have 1 inch opening at that V center. So if you go in by 1 inch, when you transfer to your fabric, you are going to have 2 inches. After getting the center V, like I said earlier, we now proceed in marking all our body circumferences. We have already input our bust divide by 4, and I'm going to also input my waist divide by 4, and the dart leg allowance I'm going to measure it like so, and I'm going to replace it by the side of the value that I have, and I went ahead to taper it all the way to my bust measurement. And I'm going to add our side bust dart. Our side bust dart is the difference between our front waistline and our back waistline. So I went ahead to, from my bust point I came down by 2 inches, because the 2 inches is the difference between my front waistline and my back waistline. And on the hip line I went ahead to input my hip divide by 4 as well. And on our gown length line I also inputed my hip divide by 4 and I straight out the line. The reason why I imputed my hip divide by 4 on the gown length is because we are not drafting pencil gown. On the center front I'm going to come in by 2 inches from my gown length all the way to my waistline. I'm going to stop at my waistline. After marking it, I'm going to join the lines together like so. You can see what I'm doing. After joining the lines together, I'm going to go ahead and give it a little bit of curve from like 3 inches before your waistline. I curve it into my waistline. So this will serve as the side gather effect that we have on that beautiful gown. So this is how you get the side gather effect. So for that side gather effect, we are going to use slash and spread method to get that fullness, gather fullness at that side. So this is how you go about it. So after marking it, I went ahead to label it so I will know which place is facing which place. Watch closely and see how I go about the cutting of our marked pattern, the drafted part that we marked. So this is how you go about the cutting. So watch closely and see how I cut out all our drafted pattern. The side from the waist to the gown length we are going to cut it through, and we are also going to cut out our princess dart line and now remove the dart bust. And for the side bust we are going to close it up because we won't be needing it, and if after closing you are going to have a little bit of excess by the side, you just go ahead and complete it. It won't affect your pattern. After completing it, you are now proceed in cutting the armhole part and also the rest of the other places. So our front pattern is ready. We now proceed in drafting the back pattern. We are going to keep the front aside. I've gone ahead to lay my pattern very flat, and I will now proceed in marking out my starting line into several places, and I'm going to go ahead and rule it out like so. After marking out my starting line, I'm also going to impute from my starting line to my chest line the same value that I imputed on the front part. So I'm going to basically impute the same value into several places in order to get my chest line, which is will serve as my armhole line as well. On that starting line, I'm going to impute my back waistline. Remember, I say the front waistline and the back waistline is not always the same. The front is always longer than the back. After imputing my back waistline, from my back waistline I'm going to impute my hip line. I came down by 9 inches like I did to the front as well to get my hip line. After getting my hip line, we are now going to mark out the length of our gown for the back. So for the back, how to get the length of your gown for the back? You are going to bring in your front pattern and measure what you have from the hip to the gown length of your front pattern. And after measuring it, I have 13 inches. So I'm basically going to impute the 13 inches from my hip line to my gown length for the back. I'm going to impute that 13 inches. Or you can simply minus the difference between your front waist and your back waist from your gown length for the back. So if you have your front waist is 17 and your back waist is 15, that means the difference between your front and the waist is 2 inches. So you can simply minus 2 inches from your back waist, from your back gown length. So I'm working with gown length of 39. So after minusing 2 inches, I was left with 37 for my back gown length. So after drafting all our pattern, it will still rhyme. It won't affect anything. So watch closely and see how I go about it. So once you close your side bust for the front, you won't have any problem. On the center back, for the waist part, I went in by 1 inch and I taper it all the way to our starting line in a curvy way. You can see what I'm trying to do. I also straighten it out all the way to the hip line in a curvy way. That is to say that our center back is not straight, it has to be curvy in order to eliminate zipper bulge. So after tightening your waist center back, we now proceed in marking out our armhole line. I'm going to slope the shoulder by 1 inch as well like I did to the front, and I'm going to find the midpoint of the armhole line. I went in by 0.25. I'm going to taper it all the way to the shoulder slope, and on that chest line I'm going to impute my bust divide by 4 value, and I'm going to go ahead and complete my armhole curve like so. So this is how you go about it. And for the back as well, I'm also going to add our princess dart as well. So I'm going to, on the waistline, impute our nipple to nipple line from the initial line that we have, not from that curvy part. In order to get a straight line, I'm going to start from the initial straight line that we have, but I'm going to add extra half inch on the nipple to nipple line. That is to say, if my nipple to nipple line for the front was 3.5, I added half inch to make it 4. And after getting my straight dart leg, I went ahead to open up my dart leg by half inch on both sides, and on the hip line came up by 3 inches as well, and I complete my waist dart leg. And for the princess dart, I also came down by 4 inches to get my back princess dart. So this is it for the back princess dart. And I'm also going to come down by 5 inch to get my off shoulder measurement for the back. So after coming down by 5 inch for the back, I will now proceed in marking all my body circumferences. I repeated my waist divided by 4 and I replaced my dart leg measurement, and I'm going to impute my hip divided by 4, and I'm going to mark out the line. On the gown length as well, I'm going to impute the same value that I have on the hip to the gown length like we did to the front. I'm going to go ahead and rule it out to meet my hip line. And on the center back, I'm going to come in by 2 inches like we did to the front as well. I'm going to follow that curvy center back. Don't follow the straight center back, rather follow our curvy center back to add that 2 inches. After adding it, we are also going to, before 3 inches before your hip waistline, 3 inches before your waistline, we are also going to go ahead and curve it into our waistline like so. So we are going to go ahead and curve it into our waistline as well. So this is how you go about that side gather also to the back pattern. So you are also going to go ahead and label it. After labeling it, we are also going to go ahead and cut. Watch closely and see how I go about the cutting. Firstly, I'm going to cut out that center back that we don't need. Like I said earlier, our center back must be curvy. Our center back is not straight in order to eliminate zipper bulge, any zipper bulge. After cutting the center back that we don't need, I'm going to go ahead and slash through the other places. The 2 inches that we came in with, I'm also going to slash it through in order to get that side or gather effect. So like I said earlier, we are going to use slash and spread method to get that gather effect by this side that we covered from our waist. And after cutting it, I'll proceed in cutting other parts. So this is it for the back. The back is very simple like the front as well. So I'm also going to cut through the darts that we have on the waistline and also cut through our princess dart. So our tutu pattern for the front and back is ready. After cutting it through, I'm going to go ahead and now transfer them to our fabric, our sewing fabric. So this is it. I'm going to label it so I won't misplace the back to the front. Remember, they are looking alike, so they are looking alike. After labeling it, this is all our pattern, 2 for the front and 2 for the back. So for the back gather effect, this is it. I'm going to keep it aside. What I'm going to transfer to our fabric now is this 4 pattern that we have here. I'm going to go ahead and transfer it to this fabric and come and show you where I added allowances. So this is it. I'm going ahead to transfer it. At the center front, I added ½ inch on that V, ½ inch all through to the hem part of our gown, because we are going to sew it is on slit parts. If you watch closely, you will see that center front have a slit. So on the hem part, I added ½ inch as well. On the bust part, I added ½ inch on the bust part, while on the side I added 2 inch same allowance, which is our sewing allowance. And I also do the same thing to the back part. I also cut out two pieces which will serve as our main fabric and also as our lining. So on the zipper part, I added 1 inch zipper allowance and ½ inch all the rest places. And on the side, I added 2 inches sewing allowance. And this is it. If you have watched to this point, thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe in any part that you find helpful through the drafting part of this beautiful gown. So for the side gather, we are going to use slash and spread to get the fullness of that gather, which we are going to do on the second part of this video, which is the sewing part. So this is the drafting part, and we have done justice to the drafting part. Thanks for watching.